All right, for more on this, we have retired Brigadier General Mark Kimmitt live with us in the studio. So Erdogan basically wants to work with the U.S. and Russia in coordination for this, not France. What does that cooperation look like?
Well, I think the first thing is that we need to make sure that as the American troops pull out, there isn't, as you said earlier, a vacuum created where groups such as ISIS and other terrorists could occupy that area and, if necessary, prepare defensive positions before the Turkish troops move in.
What do you think some of the lessons learned were from Iraq that could be applied to Syria to ensure that that doesn't happen?
Well, I think what needs to be done is that the Americans may pull the ground troops out, but they still need to provide the forces on the ground intelligence, active air support if necessary, artillery support if necessary, and if there's some training needed for those forces, do it outside of Syria. But nonetheless, the secret to success in Iraq was the terms we used: by, with, and through the Iraqis. The Iraqis did the work. The Iraqis were at the front line. The Americans provided the logistics support. It worked in Iraq. It should work in Syria.
But isn't it even less, I guess, politically unstable in Syria, given the various players on the field? And what do you think the timeline would be for this sort of coordination, given how many U.S. troops there are? And again, these kind of unknown numbers, varying numbers that we've heard from these last remaining pockets of Daesh.
Yeah. Well, I think the ability for our troops to flex from one group to support to another group to support is pretty good. Our special forces are able to get inside of a unit, start working with them immediately. And I certainly hope that as we pull the ground troops out, we are intelligent enough to leave some special operations forces to work with the forces that are coming in to defeat Daesh.
It feels like there's a bit of an air of change right now. We heard the phone call between, the readout of the phone call between President Erdogan and President Trump. The U.S. support for the YPG has been a huge source of tension, and it feels like the tide is changing a bit. Where do you see the relationship going between President Trump and Erdogan?
Well, on this channel I've said for many, many months, Turkey is an important ally of the United States. This relationship with the YPG, along with some other challenges we have in our relationship with Turkey, was only aggravating the situation. And fundamentally, it came down to, are we going to stand behind one force, or are we going to stand with our ally, Turkey? And it would appear to me that President Trump, despite all the screaming and yelling inside of Washington, D.C., recognized the importance of that relationship with Turkey. And that, among other reasons, is why he made that decision.
Meanwhile, here on American soil, Trump has received a great amount of backlash for this decision to withdraw troops from Syria. Even some of his most senior advisors don't agree with this decision. Why have we seen this sort of backlash?
Well, I think for a number of reasons. First of all, I think that there is, I wouldn't say ignorance, but I think most of those people that are out there criticizing this move really haven't studied what this move means. Let's be clear, we only had the authority to go in to defeat Daesh. But if you look very carefully at what our military has been planning, they not only are there defeating Daesh, but they also wanted to train a 40,000-man police force, which would have taken a number of years. If there is a resolution inside of Syria, inevitably the Americans would have been pulled into a peacekeeping mission. And candidly, I think that President Trump understands that the Americans don't want to be in Syria for 10 years. They've had enough of forever wars.
You mentioned earlier to me that this was not a snap decision from the president,
Indeed.
that this was more of a calculated move.
Well, look, I think that this move may have come as a shock to many, but it should come as a surprise to nobody. The fact remains, President Trump has been saying since 2015, America needs to quit fighting dumb wars in the Middle East. Personally, I think that those that wanted to continue this operation thought they could persuade the president of his misunderstanding of the situation. Candidly, at the end of the day, when you have an argument between State Department, Defense Department, Department of Treasury, When it gets to the president makes the decision, and now we execute that decision.
Okay. General Mark Kimmitt, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it. Well, Terry